As a covenantal faith, trust is vital for Unitarian Universalists. Adrienne Marie Brown's reading today spoke of family and cultural lessons, teaching us where the bounds of truth are tolerated and where they are not. Brown says we begin to learn to lie in intimate relationships at a very early age. Our families and culture indoctrinate us into believing we have to be a certain way to be accepted or loved. In some spaces in our lives, we are not invited to be our whole selves. We are not invited to be honest. We are not invited to engage in direct sharing. It is a tender aspect of relationship building on trust with those we have around us. Relationships are built, deepened, strengthened, broken, and strained by trust. Healthy trust invites a kind of honesty and truth-telling. There's a beauty to the unabashed truth-telling of the very young. Have you ever had any one of those conversations with children before that window of development happens where their filter drops down and you stop hearing everything they really think? I had one of these conversations with my niece several years ago, who eventually, as she aged, learned the art of polite lying, but not before the day I asked her this question. When Kate and I get old, will you take care of us? In all seriousness, she looked at me and she said, "No, Aunt Donna, you better ask my brother." Since that time, she eventually integrated the art Brown was talking about. Thank you for the Christmas gift she didn't really care for. This conversation is an endearing memory, although clearly my spouse Kate and I need a long-term plan for our aging. There was no risk for my niece that day in her truth-telling. She trusted that she wasn't going to be kicked out of the family or risk her job or be refused service at a restaurant or be in danger in some other way, as some are, when they speak their truth. We had a culture of trust where it was indeed safe enough for her to say what she was thinking. She was gently and directly honest that day. In spite of our enhanced skill development with what some might call polite responses as we age, we're not shielded from the uncomfortable feelings that arise when we have an environment of trust, where we are gently honest with each other. My first Unitarian Universalist minister used to say, if we get close enough to someone, we will see their warts. And she and I had that kind of relationship that offered us an opportunity to see each other's warts. Sometimes it was a mistake that I made, and I was a lay leader in the congregation at that time. So a mistake in my priorities. And she would gently have a conversation with me. And at other times, since ministers aren't immune from being human, that after a long day, she responded in ways that were more abrupt than her usual. We had a covenant of both accountability and forgiveness. We trusted each other enough to have some difficult conversations. A restoration and redemption of sorts was available to us based on that UU principle of respecting the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's freeing to know that in our Unitarian Universalism, we can develop relationships built on trust. Relationships that hold us in our times of struggle and vulnerability. Both families and congregations are equally full of these warts and restoration opportunities. When we risk living into any semblance of authentic community, we will indeed run into this. Perhaps by that time, we've come to acknowledge each other as multidimensional people, seeing each other's strengths as well as shortcomings. What flame will we tend as we write the story of this congregation? What story will come into being by act after act after act of compassion and trust building? And what will we anticipate from each other and this community that we're in? Sometimes we use frames that are like those spacious, big, boxy, sort of shadow boxes. Lots of room in there. And at other times, it's more like a paint with water page where it doesn't matter what brush you use, the picture is set underneath, leading us to possibly the least charitable outcome. It's as though our responses are present before the event has even happened. It was the end of the day on my way home from church at the intersection I had passed more than 100 times when a beat-up red pickup truck closes in on my back bumper. I brace myself, anticipating at warp speed that I might be in an accident. I've been in an accident before, and now my comfort with distance between cars is much greater than it used to be. The truck doesn't hit me, and after a moment, the truck pulls up to my right side and stops in traffic next to me. I'm stopped at a light in a long line of traffic, and there are several car lengths open in front of that red truck. I'm noticing my heart race a little bit, and I'm a little anxious. I look over at the driver who's waving her arms around, so I wave back, thinking, is it someone I've met and I don't remember? She gives me a thumbs up. My pulse starts to slow down again, and as she's motioning, I figure out she wants me to roll down my window, which used to be easier when this was kind of the universal indication that someone wanted you to roll down the window, but somehow she got her point across. So I roll down my window in a partial state of confusion. She yells across to me, "I love your bumper stickers." The light changes. She yells one last thing before driving off. "I love you." What a way to end the day. It's not what I was waiting for. It's not what I was anticipating. I've come to expect that when people are following me through traffic, it's for no good reason. I used to do home care as a social worker, so driving around all day is what I did. One day, a car followed me through downtown Lewiston, through several turns and neighborhoods. Finally, arriving at my destination, I pull over and park. The person following me did the same thing. They get out of their car and come up to me, offering me a religious tract. That day, I figured the person saw my Grace Happens bumper sticker next to my rainbow bumper sticker and thought there might be hope for me yet. I'm not against religious tracts. Some of them offer theological reflections on how to live a good life or how to be a better human being. This pamphlet, however, wasn't one of those. It was labeled, "Are you sure?" That was the day I stacked my car with pamphlets about the UU principles, just in case. I would be ready the next time. The red car pulled up, and I was ready. Relationships are built at the speed of trust, and social change happens at the speed of relationships. These are the words of the Reverend Jennifer Bailey. Reverend Bailey is an ordained minister, public theologian, national leader, and is the founder and executive director of Faith Matters Network. She is an ordained itinerant elder of the African Methodist Episcopal Church and serves on the staff of the Great Bethel AME Church in Nashville, Tennessee. Reverend Bailey's statement invites us to consider how our personal relationships, our perspectives, our public relationships, and our congregations are built on trust. Trust is something we collect like stones in a jar. We build on experiences, and they impact how we engage with ourselves, with each other, and with our community. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of spending time here, literally, with some of the leadership of this congregation, along with 4 other Maine congregations. The New England region had facilitated a joint board retreat titled Facing Challenges Together. We began the day with a chalice lighting, some readings, reflection, and conversations, and an opportunity to participate in what is called dinner church, which in our case was lunch church. More on that another day. We were invited into a time of storytelling. Think of a time when you were engaged in an activity in your congregation that felt inspiring, exciting, or meaningful to you. Each of us in our smaller congregational groups were invited to tell our stories, noting what made it such an exciting, inspiring, and moving experience. As we shared these stories together, some congregational characteristics began to rise, and here are just a few. A remarkable coming together, care and compassion, support, open sharing, good listening, an opportunity for spiritual practice, helping in the rest of my life, shared skills, collaboration, a spirit of moving forward, playfulness, and joy. A remarkable coming together. Care and compassion. Support. Open sharing. Good listening. An opportunity for spiritual practice, helping in the rest of my life. Sharing skills. Collaboration. A spirit of moving forward. Playfulness and joy. I think that's probably worth like 3 scoops. This is the jar filled with trust. One interchange at a time, one relationship at a time, one group experience at a time, one luncheon at a time, one choir practice at a time, one opportunity for a joyful committee meeting at a time. Relationships are built at the speed of trust, and social changes happen at the speed of relationships. The red truck rolled up, and I was waiting. "I love you," she yells, and drives off. I invite you to join me for our closing hymn, number 30, "Over My Head." And for the 5th verse, instead of angels, which you'll find in there, I'm inviting you to sing "I Feel Justice in the Air" when we get to the 5th verse.